Welcome to TERC Tech Talks with your hosts, Zach, Elise, and Ken. Today with our special guests, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill education professor Dionne Francis and PhD student Kathryn Habib, we explore how an AI trained at UNC can act like a fifth grader trying to learn fractions. Okay, well, welcome to TERC Tech Talks, and we have with us some special guests, and we'll introduce them in just a second. Again, I'm Ken Rafanan, and I'm here with
Elise Levin-Güracar.
All right, and we have with us two superstar guests. We have Professor Dionne Francis from University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and with us we have Kathryn Habib, who is a PhD student of Dr. Francis. And maybe you all can introduce some of the work that you do.
Okay, so a lot of my work is situated within mathematics teacher education and specifically teacher development, both pre-service and in-service teachers. And my work kind of overlaps with teacher education, mathematics education, and educational psychology. I was trained as an educational psychologist, so I'm really interested in understanding the psychological and affective constructs that influence teachers' decision-making, and then how to kind of leverage that to optimize professional development in ways that are more personalized and that support them best.
Yeah, and similar to Dionne, my research interests are around teacher learning and sort of conceptualizing teachers as sort of whole humans, right? So thinking about them in terms of more than just their cognitive processes or their practices, but their emotions, their beliefs, and specifically their identities. And so I'm really interested in pre-service elementary teachers' math identities in particular. So how they think about themselves in relationship to math and what that means for how they think about themselves as teachers.
Oh, fantastic. So we're going to be using a tool today. Dionne, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you're using this AI tool in your classes, or is it a research project?
It's both. It started out as needing a way to help to support them in developing the skills for eliciting student thinking. And it's become increasingly difficult to access real students and classrooms. And of course, with the advent of AI, it's created a lot more opportunities for us to support pre-service teachers in developing skills without harming kids, which is fantastic. So I'd worked on a larger research project that was multi-institutional before, and we had several simulations that we did. One of them was focused on eliciting students' thinking, and that is kind of like the first step in then helping them to develop skills of facilitating conversation. So when we saw that, the pre-service teachers actually got much better at doing that over the time that we worked with them on that project. And so that wasn't in my classroom. And so that's where I'm starting with this. I decided to start with just this tool where they work with one student around one problem and try to work at eliciting the students' thinking and reasoning around that as a way of then building up that skill as it connects with the larger, more complex practice of facilitating discussions with multiple students. So I decided to work with a colleague who is really more adept and informed about AI and building this agent. And she is the person, her name is Ha Win. She's also a faculty member at UNC Chapel Hill. And she designed the AI agents, the two of them, one is Josh and one is Hannah. We provided a lot of the data around the statements that Josh and Hannah make and how in our prior work that kind of went back and forth between the teacher and the student. So some of that data was used to feed into designing of the bot and creating the prompts. And then we've had our pre-service teachers do several rounds of working with both of the AI agents in eliciting their thinking around this particular problem that in the context of fractions.
All right, great. So maybe Elise, you can share your screen.
I'll start just by sharing this one. Okay, so it looks like it gives us the task. The students have been working hard to find a fraction between 2/3 and 7/8. Chat with them to see their reasoning. You can send both text and voice messages. start talking to chat. And then on the right, we have an illustration of student strategy, and I'm just going to zoom in on that for a second. And I was curious, Dionne, is this AI generated or is this student work?
This is a copy of the student work. So this is what Josh produced in his response to the problem.
Okay, I don't think I realized that these were two real students.
No, they're not real students, but we created the persona of Josh, a fifth grader, and this is the kind of solution that Josh would create for this kind of problem, and how he would explain it, his solution. So we crafted these two characters.
Yeah. Got it. From what you've seen from student work.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So how do you see people usually start these kinds of conversations? What do you think we should start with asking or saying?
Hi, Josh.
I like that it took a little bit to be like, should I say something different than hi?
My internet, I think, is running a little bit slow also, but...
Yeah, sometimes it does that. And if you choose to type in verse, it's usually a little bit faster than if you use the audio.
Right. I tried this morning when I started playing with it. I tried to use the audio, but it didn't ever do anything for me. It always just ignored me.
Were you clicking the button, start audio? And then okay.
But
sorry about that.
Maybe my mic was not hooked up to my browser or something. That could be.
I was trying to play with it the other day, and one of my children was blasting Christmas music in the other room, and it was picking up the lyrics to one of the songs, so I had to abort and try again later.
Just like a real classroom.
That's right.
And then maybe you can type in something like, tell me a little bit about how you solve the problem.
Yeah.
I drew number lines to figure it out.
I didn't realize it was going to read it to me.
That's nice.
And then you can say something like, okay, so what number lines did you draw and why? And I'm going to let Katie pick it up. Like, what would you say?
I drew one for 2/3 and another for 7/8. I wanted to see where they are.
Okay. Let's ask, let's ask him, I see that you drew 5 number lines in all. Which one did you draw first?
I drew the 2/3 one first.
Okay, that's interesting. That's not what I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
I thought he was going to say you did 1/2 first.
Because it's at the top and the easiest one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We did 2/3 first. I mean, that's the one that I want to ask about, because I'm noticing that on the 2/3, on the thirds number line, 2/3 matches up with 3/4.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of bugging me. I want to know about that.
Go ahead and ask it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's ask, how did you know where to put 1/3 and 2/3 on the number line?
I just put them on the line, like 1/3 and then 2/3.
That is such a realistic answer, right?
Like, I
It
just
took a while to get there, a long time for the AI to actually make typical statements like that of a 5th grader.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
very intelligent. It tries to actually give you really robust and sensible answers. You have to like several rounds to get it to kind of give you like just very direct, very short, don't explain answers like a 5th grader.
Okay.
Yeah.
It took a lot of training to become a 5th grader.
Yeah. Yes. It's not easy to be a 5th grader.
Yeah.
Okay, let's ask it which number line, or ask him which number line he did. Or maybe we should ask Hannah a question because they work together, right?
No, they're separate.
Oh, they're separate. Okay. Let's ask him what he did next.
Drew the line for 7/8 and put marks for 2/8, 3/8, and up to 7/8.
Okay.
So are you trying to get at what considerations did you make when you were actually putting on the hash marks? Are you trying to get at if you thought about equal spacing or equal partitioning?
Yes. Should I ask about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to be too leading is the problem. I don't want to say.
Just doesn't say, what did you think about when you were putting the hash marks on the line?
Okay.
Was there anything that you thought about specifically as you're...
Then I'll tell you about the rabbit hole I went down this morning.
I thought about splitting the line into parts, like for each fraction.
Did you choose to put the marks anywhere?
I think I just put them where I thought they should go.
That sounds like a fifth grader. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a human, actually. Like, why'd you do that? Because I wanted to. That's why. Okay.
Let's ask him what order he did the fractions on the eighths number line. Or maybe like, in what order did you write the fractions on the eighths number line?
Yeah.
I wrote 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, then up to 7/8.
Okay. That's bugging me too.
How do you mean?
You might ask a direct question. So you might say, well, when I look at your line, I see that the distance between 1/8 and 2/8 is different than the distance between 2/8 and 3/8. Did you mean to do that, or
1/8 and 2/8 is different than the distance.
did you intend to do it that way, or something like that?
Let's try that.
I guess not. I wanted them to be even.
Oh, that even.
Okay.
Can we ask, like, what do you mean by even?
Like, the spaces should be the same size between each mark.
So let's ask why that's important. Why is that important?
Because fractions should be equal parts.
Could we ask, is there anything you could do next time you make a number line to make it more even?
Maybe measure the spaces better.
Oh, so this is the rabbit hole I started going down about this whole measurement part of it. And then it made me real, like, my what I took away from it is like, number lines are tough. That's the construction of them is so important, right?
Yeah, if you're using a visual model to compare the fractions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially trying to do thirds, I feel like is tricky. Or I'm sure anything that's not like
A multiple of 2.
yeah, denominator that's a multiple of 2, it seems like. Okay.
Can we ask how would you measure the spaces better?
I could use a ruler to make them the same size.
So then, yeah, you can go down. But one of the things that we also want the pre-service teachers to keep in mind is that pointing out where the figure might be misleading is good. But then you still want to come back to the main problem, which is how did you determine what fractions were in between those two fractions? So I kind of like what you said about the rabbit hole, because sometimes we see this in the printout where they hook one idea and then that goes on for several lines, and then they end the conversation and never actually get back to what the core problem was. So
don't use the one that was made this morning. Don't use that one, because my rabbit hole is so deep. Like, it was like 50 lines long, and then like, oh yeah, let's go back to the original problem. So anyway.
No, I think that's a good point, because despite the fact that he struggled with the spacing, it was not to a degree that it derailed him from finding a correct solution.
At least one, right?
At least one, a correct solution. So,
Okay, but does he know? I mean, does he know actually that it is? Can he prove that it's correct?
Yeah, so that would be a really good question. So if like you circle back and said, okay, well, let's go back to the original problem. Can you tell me, did you identify a fraction that was in between 2/3 and 7/8? Or maybe better would be, how did you identify, so that it's not just a yes or no answer?
It was 2/3 and 7/8.
7/8.
Okay.
I lined up the number lines and saw 7/9 was between them.
let's see, I want to know like how, because he had, before he could see 7/9 was between them, he had to make a decision to draw a ninths number line. So he already.
So maybe go back to what he said before, right? So he said he drew 2 number lines, right? I think it was, what did he say? 1/3 and
The eighths.
the 8ths, right? And then maybe you start there. Earlier, you mentioned that you drew the thirds line, or he said the 2/3 line and the 7/8 line.
Maybe which one did you draw next? Or what did you do next?
Yeah.
What did you think about next?
Making more lines to see other fractions in between.
Okay. So which one did you do after that?
I made the line for 1/9 next.
Interesting. Okay. How did you decide to make a number line with ninths next?
I just wanted to try a different bottom number to see if it fits between 2/3 and 7/8.
And why did you try ninths first?
I thought maybe because 9 is close to 8. It might help find one in between.
And maybe you said, but I noticed in your picture you drew other number lines. Why did you draw those?
I love having a sort of a very patient student also. We couldn't.
Not asking about recess, yeah.
I want them to see more fractions and find one between 2/3 and 7/8.
So I was trying to see more.
I mean, he could get lucky, right? If he'd done the 3/4 correctly, he would have got lucky.
That's true.
So is that something that you would want to ask about?
I mean, I did earlier, but we don't have to do it here.
What if we just say, did that help you find any other fractions that work?
And then maybe following that, is there anything about the way you drew those number lines that may have kind of hindered that?
Yeah, I saw 7/9 was in between them.
Is that the only one that you found?
I think so. Yeah. 7/9 was the one I noticed.
Did we ask about is there anything about how you drew the number line?
Yeah. That may have prevented you from seeing other fractions between.
Maybe the spaces weren't even, so it was hard to see clearly.
I'd say Josh.
Maybe ask if you could do this again, like if you could try another approach, or you could attempt the problem again. If you could work on the problem again, are there things that you would do differently? Or what are some things you would do differently?
I'd use a ruler to make the spaces even and maybe try more different bottom numbers.
More different bottom numbers. Are there some bottom numbers that you think might be more likely to help you find a fraction that works?
Maybe numbers close to 3 and 8, like 6 or 10.
But we can't ask him to do any additional work, huh? So that's kind of tricky.
You can ask him to do thinking work, but he wouldn't be able to redraw.
Okay. I want to get him to think about the fourths number line, but I don't want to like make him feel bad.
Can we, so in the tool's memory, can we do something like, can you redraw the fourth number line and tell me about whether you can see any fractions that would fall between 2/3 and 7/8? Like it can, does the tool have that kind of capacity? Sort of like, I'm imagining a new problem, or a new way that I've worked on this problem.
So I've never asked it a question like that in the context of what a representation that has not yet been made by it, what that would give. But what it could do would be if you could reason about something that didn't require you to rely on a representation, it can do that. But let's see what it says.
Okay, I'll try. Maybe 3/4 could be between them.
Okay.
Then maybe ask, like, can you tell us why you think that? Tell me, doesn't know that there are multiple people.
I think because 3/4 is more than 2/3, but I'm not sure if it's less than 7/8.
It's interesting that it said that, because in the initial iteration it didn't express doubt at all. So they had that here. It's saying, okay, this I know, but I don't know about this. Like that's a this development that happened after several iterations.
Can we lie to it? I mean, yeah, I guess we're lying. Can we say like, well, it's not less than 7/8?
Try it. Maybe it'll go, are you sure?
Oh, okay. I guess I need to check more carefully next time.
It's trusting us because we're the teacher.
I know it's not definitively telling you that you're right, but
and we're not allowed to go back and undo a interaction.
What do you mean?
Like we can't delete that last question from its memory.
But we could say like, oh no, I think maybe it is less than 7/8. I think it's maybe even less than 2/3. So like I'm trying to figure out like when the like how much it is like one of the regular sort of chat bots, like where you can kind of bully it into agreeing with you, or whether the whether its underlying math model is like, no, that's not going to be right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Let's correct ourselves.
So maybe 3/4 isn't between them after all.
Oh, poor Josh.
Yeah, so that's something that we might want to fix so that it actually is confident in what it knows, like what is represented on the diagram. It knows. But I think one of the things that what might be realistic about this is that 5th graders are like that.
Yeah.
So he is making a conjecture about reasoning. I think 3/4 might be, but if the teacher really comes back and says, actually, no, that's not the case, typical 5th grader is unlikely to challenge the teacher, I think, without hard proof, which he doesn't have right now.
True, because his drawing matches up with that, right? It does look like if you trust his number lines,
Yeah.
3/4 is less than 2/3 and 7/8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the original, maybe it was a conjecture, and now it's like, okay, well, the teacher says no, so
Right.
maybe I go that way.
I mean, I think it's a fantastic tool. One, because it just let me keep on asking it things over and over again for like an hour. But maybe the next iteration, that confidence level would be interesting if it could be built in, right? Like there's a Josh, whatever, a more confident version of Josh. Maybe
Josh 2.
as they, yeah, exactly. As they get to middle school, they become more confident and they challenge the teacher back or something.
And that's what it was doing initially. I've talked to some of my other colleagues who are kind of playing around with this too for younger students too, and it's really hard to get the intelligent AI to be less intelligent in a way that mimics the less fluent way that kids develop and articulate their ideas, and the sometimes tentative confidence that they have, right? When they're just working, they haven't, at this point, he hasn't necessarily discussed this with anyone to try out the ideas. This is really pitched as he solved it on his own, and now he's coming to talk with the teacher about his thinking. And so opportunities to actually feel more confident about the idea realistically hasn't happened. And so how confident would a student be around that, right? At that point for early grades.
Can we look at the Hannah version? So do you know, is the Hannah persona, is it just using a different representation, or is it like a different trained model altogether?
It's a different trained model on understanding how to the underlying ideas around this particular representation.
Okay.
So if you bring in ideas from Josh, which are somewhat legitimate, but the idea of a number line, it may be able to fumble around it, but having not created that representation, it would be a little bit more, it should be more challenging for it to articulate ideas sensibly.
Mm-hmm.
I just zoomed into the visual, so we have in orange the pie diagram with 2/3 shaded, and then 4/6, and then in blue 7/8 shaded, and then 14/16 as an illustration of the student strategy.
In our last episode, we were talking about how pizzas are so popular for fraction learning, and they're so hard to work with.
Yeah. I actually encourage my pre-service teachers to not do circle diagrams at all with in elementary, because it's just really hard for them to compare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And draw and represent. So
there's so many problems with it. Yeah.
16ths is not easy to draw at all. That's
Mm-hmm.
You can use pizza all you like, but it has to be Detroit style.
We're doing areas here.
I think what's nice about this, though, is the pace. Like, you can slow it down and pause and take all the time that you want to think about, how you're making sense of what the response was and what you want to know next, which is what is so hard about, like, starting to develop this skill in real situations.
Or like Dionne was saying, that rabbit hole thing, I could just imagine myself being a new teacher, and you just, all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, you're like, I did not have that 15 minutes, and now we didn't get whatever. If, say this was the warm-up, all of a sudden your warm-up has taken half of your class, and you're like, well, that was interesting, but do I have the time?
Right. And if that interaction is happening in front of other students, worrying that you might sort of cause misconceptions to spread, and
where the other students are checking out because they made the circle diagram, they didn't use the number line at all, so what are they doing during this whole thing?
And I think just if you're thinking about it, Katie, you clearly have not had, none of you maybe as much exposure to the ideas of the students as the pre-service teachers would. And so you're coming to this as, so we talked to them, not extensively, but briefly around the ideas, some of what we're talking about here in the gaps between when we're asking the agent, what to do. But still, we're just like, okay, is this a good question to ask? Is that not the best question to ask? And then you're trying to create these question sequences that are really useful for getting the student to think deeply about the decision-making process, but doing that on the fly, right? Where you don't have three other people to kind of, should we ask it this way? Should we ask, maybe we should pull back and get back to the original kind of problem that we had, but just, trying to really navigate this one-on-one interaction with a child, that it's a really, really challenging skill to meet the goal you have.
Katie, it made me think of the work that we're doing in visualized teaching. Is this as a way of visualizing that conversation in advance of when you have it with the student, right?
Yeah. Sort of another way to do that. I guess I'm curious, because I haven't gotten to be in the classroom when they've done any of this work, but Dionne, how do they seem to experience it? Like, is it, do the pre-service teachers, do they see value in it?
I think they do. So what we did was we've coded their responses based on the nature of the talk that they're engaging in, mostly from the teacher end, and then use these codes like, is it an explain? It's an open question. Is it a closed question? Is it a justify, explain? Are you eliciting reasoning? Those kinds of things. And then we just did some brief kind of summary stats on the first time they did it and the second time they did it. And we presented that to them in class a couple of weeks ago. I think they're going on their fourth round of doing it on Monday. And they were really, first of all, they did a pretty good job in terms of the kind of talk that we would want them to engage in, just right off the bat. And then we saw improvements in shifts in, and this is without any overt support on my part. Just going into the second round, we saw shifts in terms of the number of open questions that they were asking, the number of justify types of questions and explain questions that they were asking, and the less just giving of information, just like do this or giving instructions. And so they were interested in just seeing, of course, what they did, but what they requested was, could we get personal feedback? Like they wanted, like, I want to know how I'm doing. Like, you just give us this aggregate data, but I want to know, like, what is it that I need to do next to do a better job?
That's really cool. When you first said that, I was almost thinking like that they wanted the feedback to be built into the tool itself. And so I started thinking about what that would look like. Like if there was like a little bar that would turn green, the more like, open-ended, reasoning oriented questions that you asked, and it would start to like turn some other color if you weren't doing that. But it sounds like a lot of programming on the back end.
Can you imagine how nerve-wracking that would be? I mean, that's interesting because what you're saying, Katie's using the AI to kind of model what a rehearsal is, where they're getting like immediate kind of real-time feedback, where it would be like, well, okay, stop for a minute, try this question. That would be, we have thought about giving feedback, not necessarily while they're going through, but putting in programming that it could just pop up with those summary statistics. Like it would have it would be able to identify certain types of questions as open versus closed. And then it could just give like some quick statistics at the end. But that is to come.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking of like a dashboard kind of thing that, or the bar thing, right? Like, and then I was thinking of comparing to, I could imagine some version of the tool is like, compare to Professor Francis. Here's the kinds of questions that she would be asking, and you're not meeting that, which we would like lots of teachers to get to, I think. And I don't know if you can then create, there's like the persona of the student, but then there's a persona of a more ideal teacher. And then it's probably not this version of AI, but in 5 years, can we have these other things that you can sort of compare to? You don't want them to become like the AI version, obviously, but
I'm not sure anything is 5 years away. You mean next week? They'll be doing that.
Well, it's really funny that you say that, because I've a number of times over the past few years that I've been in the PhD program and working with the same set of students that are going through Dionne's math methods course, I will hear them sometimes say things like, I could hear Dionne's voice in my head today at school when I was teaching this math lesson, right? Or like they'll tell me about something that went well and be like, I know Dionne would have been really excited to see that. And so I think that's actually like, what you were describing that could potentially be built into the tool is something that we're doing it, right? Like we have these like internalizations of people that we are referencing as an ideal version of something that we're trying to become in our minds, and we're sort of like accessing that internalized perspective that they imagine that we imagine that they would have as we're trying to do the thing that we're trying to do.
It's time for TERC Tech Talks Top 3 Takeaways. When built thoughtfully, AI tools can help prepare teachers.
One of the great things about simulations in general is this idea that you are learning to do something and you can really develop and develop expertise without actually harming someone, right? So you're not wasting a child's time. You're not, by the time you get into the classroom, you feel a lot more competent, and you are more competent in engaging students in this kind of dialogue to get them to think more deeply about their ideas. So I love it. It's brilliant. And Katie knows that I'm not running out and advertising AI at any time soon. But this, I really think it's advantageous for supporting teacher learning.
Teachers can use AI to develop their own content ideas.
In a lot of ways, AI is really encroaching upon our opportunities to think and reason through problems, right? And in this way, it's actually helping to provide more space for your own thinking.
And finally, the next generation of AI tools can be even better if we properly invest resources into researching how to teach and learn with AI.